Well, it was Three's Company in Atlanta, Georgia tonight. The Clemson men's basketball team just minutes ago with a big win over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and they did it by raining down shots from long distance, something we don't often see with the Tigers basketball team. They did it tonight, and they avenged an earlier heartbreaking loss to Georgia Tech. And we're going to talk all about that, plus some disappointment and heartbreak once again for the men's basketball team a few days ago, plus lots of baseball and softball all on this episode of Around the Pause. So kick back, relax, and enjoy, because we've got a lot to come on your one-stop shop for everything Clemson athletics. I'm Garrett Mitchell, Griffin Barfield, Clifton Kennedy. It's Around the Pause. Let's go.
Getting that stuff till you hearing that sound.
All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what, a little bit of a late night episode here. And the reason for that is we were all enjoying that Clemson basketball victory at Georgia Tech, 81-57. Quite an offensive display tonight, and a season high 14 made three-pointers for Clemson. It was quite a 360. It was quite the turnaround from the game at home at Little John against Georgia Tech that ended in utter heartbreak in double overtime. So, guys, what went right for Clemson tonight? Because, tell you what, you can point to a lot of different things, but it was great all around.
I think you hit it perfectly. I think three-point shooting was kind of the name of the game. Clemson sank 14 threes, and they shot 48% from three. That kind of is the difference maker. In any game, if you shoot over 45% from three, you're most likely going to win a game. And I really think that shot defense was great as well. They held Georgia Tech to just about 30% from the field as a whole. And, you know, we've been kind of not seeing this as of late. We saw this in the beginning of the season, and I believe Jim Boeheim said this on the broadcast too, that we haven't really seen Clemson defend the shot as well as they did tonight. And I really think that it's just in terms of this team gelling. And I think, it comes in terms of how Brad Brownell is able to adjust. This is their third win against an opponent that they've lost to. And with 8 losses, that's 3 of their 8 losses have been avenged, which makes only good things for the net, which makes only good things for KenPom. If you see Clemson as, like a top 4, top 5 seed, according to guys like Joe Lenardi, and they're not ranked, that's the reason why, because they're able to avenge opponents. So give credit to Brownell, give credit to guys like Ian Shefflin, Chase Hunter. They had great games. Joe Girard, PJ Hall, all 4 of those guys scored double digits. PJ Hall, special shout out because it is his birthday today. But overall, just a great win, just a great win, and on to Florida State on Saturday.
Yeah, one person that stood out for me and was Ian Shefflin's back on his game, and he played really well. Hit what was he, 3 of 4 from 3-point land, which is, I'll be honest with you, that's unheard of. You don't see that too. Yeah, you don't see that too often. He was 1 point shy of his career high. He had 19 tonight. His career high is 20. Chase Hunter had 18. I mean, man, it's you're in trouble when PJ Hall only has 11 points and everybody, and you won by 20 or more. What was it? Yeah. You won by over 20. And 24. 24. Yeah, so you're in trouble when PJ Hall's only had 11 points.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, on top of that, talk about hitting 14 threes. Well, Ian Shefflin and PJ Hall were both 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. So, look, when you're 2-6, you've got 2 guys that are 6'10", 6'11", and they're combining to go 6 of 8 from the 3-point line, then woe is to anybody that Clemson is playing, because not too many opponents are going to be able to match that or have big men that are going to shoot with the same proficiency from the 3-point line.
I completely agree. And everybody on this starting 5 hit at least 2 threes. Jack Clark hit 2 threes, and he's not a guy that's really prone to shooting the ball downtown. Not even at NC State, he wasn't really a guy that shot the 3 ball. He was more of a defense guy. 2 threes for there. You could kind of see a little bit more progression now that he's been healthy for the first time in 2 years. He's been able to kind of play in his own and find his true form. And I think he could be one of the biggest X factors for this squad, just on his defensive side and his ability to shoot the ball. But I really think Chase Hunter was the key takeaway to this game. He had 4 threes out of 6 attempts. He also had 6 assists, and we've been talking about him for the whole season and where he fits because obviously Joe Girard came in from Syracuse this summer. I really think he's finding his way. He's becoming that slashing point guard. If he's open, he's going to shoot the three. And if you're shooting 4 for 6 from three, you're obviously going to have a great game. And I really think, especially back at home, he's from Atlanta, and able to do it back home with his mom in attendance. It was nice to see Chase have a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. I mean, another one, Clark only had 8 points, but he was 2 of 4 from 3. You don't see that. And I'll say, I think the reason this team, and I think we wanted this from the get-go, but the reason this team is doing really well, besides everybody else scoring, is Jack Clark starting. And he's making a big difference. Just his height and length and the way he can, guard certain people, and it just makes a big difference,
Yeah, and now one area of concern I do see for this Clemson team, and it was even mentioned by the analyst on the ACC Network tonight during the broadcast, and that's Chauncey Wiggins. Only 2 points tonight, and his production here of the second half of the season, especially really the last 3 weeks or so, has really, really plummeted. He's averaging, I think the stat that they threw out was maybe over the last 10 games, he's averaging 2.8 points per game. This was a guy that was playing very well early in the year, and it was leading to a lot of that success. He was putting up good numbers. Should there be any concern about the play of Chauncey Wiggins? Because this Clemson team, if they're going to go deep in the NCAA tournament, you need to be firing on all cylinders. And right now, that's a piston that might need to be oiled up a little bit.
I agree. I do think it's a little bit of both. I do think, we have seen a little bit better of Chauncey Wiggins. He led the team in scoring against South Carolina. I was over the moon with how he played in that game, but I think it has to go again with how Jack Clark has kind of fit into this lineup. He's the more defensive guy. Chauncey's a more offensive player. I don't consider him a defensive asset like I do with Clark. But I think he's going to find his way. He might be, the true scorer on this rotation in the seconds with like the second team, if you get what I'm saying. I think he just needs to find his way defensively. He needs to be able to stay aggressive down low. But honestly, I wouldn't really worry. I think he's just finding his way. Unless it's till the end of the regular season where we're still seeing these numbers, that's when I'm going to start raising my eyebrows. But we saw players like this in a slump when Clemson were 500 for like 6 to 7 games. I really think that it's just a stretch. He's going to try to find his way, and I think that Brownell knows that too, and he's going to guide him in the right direction. At least I hope.
Yeah, I kind of go along with the same sentiments. I mean, Chauncey Wiggins is struggling right now. He's playing well in the beginning of the season, but it's kind of like wasn't Chase Hunter playing bad at the beginning of the season and then kind of found his way? So I think he's just got, like you said, Griff, he's just got to find his way, man, and figure out where he fits in now that Jack Clark's healthy and starting and getting a lot of the minutes. He's got to learn how to come off that bench and be productive and not play like he's been playing. I mean,
yeah, and look, he's too talented of a player not to. I think he'll get there. And you've got a few games, 4 or 5 games left in the prior to the ACC tournament to get that ironed out and sorted out. And I think if that happens, this Clemson team becomes even more dangerous than they already are. Now, as great of a win as this was tonight, and it certainly takes a lot of the bad taste out of your mouth from what happened on Saturday, but another tough – and if this Clemson team, it's like a pendulum of emotions. They have these great heartfelt wins that just they elate you, they get you over the moon, and then they have games that just absolutely rip your heart out. And last Saturday – at home against NC State was another one of those gut wrenchers. You've got a double-digit lead in the final 4 or 5 minutes of the game, only to see NC State come back, score with about 10 seconds left, and they win that ball game 78-77. And then Of course, you could point to some other external factors that you could say might have had a input on how that game ended as well. So, but when it all boils down to it, what does this Clemson team have to do to consistently protect leads down the stretch? Because that's been a big problem at times with this group.
I really think that you can't take your foot off the gas. The one I'm looking at mainly is the first Georgia Tech game. I forget if it was Chase Hunter or PJ Hall missed 2 free throws. Georgia Tech came back. Nathan George hit a 3, tied the game. You just really,
PJ Hall,
I think it might have been PJ.
Hall.
I think Chase might have been a different game, but time and time again, I think this team has a negative record in one-score games. And we talked about it with Duke. And yes, the refereeing, it has to be talked about, but you have to close out, especially if you're up. If Clemson was up 2 scores in Cameron, Clemson was up, what, 9 points with 6-7 minutes to go. I mean, yes, NC State, I do think is a great team. I think, credit to Kevin Keats, credit to DJ Horn. He had an incredible game. But I really think that Clemson has the tools. They just need to be able to close out games. And if they've been able to close out games, this team would be top of the ACC. This team would still be ranked. But every team has its kinks. And for Clemson, it's just going to be closing out and the slump at the beginning of the season. But if they keep shooting like they did against Georgia Tech and find answers like they did at North Carolina, if they play like they did at North Carolina, I really think this team could go not only far in the ACC, but far in the NCAA tournament, because closing out games is so important down the stretch.
Yeah.
How many times do you see ACC tournament games go to a 1-score game? How many times do you see leads get lost in the NCAA tournament just because of a late surge? Clemson could fall guilty if, that's not really fixed up. But I think you're seeing bits and pieces of that coming in. I think you're going to see it again against teams like Pittsburgh, teams like Wake Forest. That's the biggest game for the rest of the season, at least in my opinion. But it's going to be – I really think that it's just as a team. And I think the team is growing. And I'm just looking at the North Carolina game as the best example of that. Miami, too. Clemson came back as well. I think this team's trending in the right direction. There's obviously going to be kinks in the ship, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think I heard something that said Clemson's like 0-4 and at home or something crazy like that against ACC. They've lost. Maybe it was they've lost four ACC games at home or something like that by 1 or 2
score.
points or something. Yeah, by 1 score. It was crazy stat like that, and I think if we are going to make it past the first round of the NCAA tournament, because I do think we're in. But we need to play like we did, like you said tonight. We need to play like that, and we need to learn how to close out games and not turn the ball over at the end of the games, like Duke, like NC State. I mean, that Horn kid single-handedly beat us. He did. Like, he hit shot after shot after shot after shot at NC State, at that NC State game at home. And then he hit the winning shot. I mean, so if I'm not mistaken, we turned the ball over a couple times in that last minute and a half or whatever. We just got to stop turning the ball over, stupid turnovers. So we had one turnover. We had one turnover tonight at the beginning of the game because PJ Hall threw the ball back court.
I will say this though. Right now, Clemson is projected a 5 seed according to ESPN's Joe Lenardi. The 12 seeds that play in March Madness are your mid-major conference championships that make runs. That's how it goes. You get your, last year I remember teams like Drake, and I mean the team that pops out for me is McNessy State with the LSU coach Will Wade. They only have 3 losses all year. If Clemson don't close out a game, they could very much be upset in the first round. And I
hate the 5 seed,
I can completely
man.
see that.
I hate it.
The 5 seed sucks. You're against the best mid-majors.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
Full disclosure right here. I always participate in one of our coaches at my former high school. He does this NCAA bracket challenge every year. It's $10 buy-in. You can put one or two brackets in, and usually pays out pretty well if you win. And one thing that I've learned over the years is when you get extra points for picking upsets. Pick at least two 12s to beat 5s. Pick your 12s over your 5s and 10s over 7s. Those are your two money upsets right there. If you can nail those down, you got a good shot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah,
now before
I don't really do. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm terrible at picking brackets, and that the whole thing that they had with the Super Bowl at a party that I went to. I'm terrible at that. I mean, it's just I don't pick brackets anymore because I'm so bad at them.
I love it.
Me too. I've won this thing one time, and one time in like 15, 16 years, but I still do it because it's fun, and I love being able to sit in front of my TV and watch these games happen, and just sit there and cuss up and down with my door shut because I've just lost a game that I thought I had the perfect pick. I had the perfect pick.
That's funny.
And then somebody hits a shot at the buzzer, and all of a sudden my brackets are done. And it's torture, but I love it.
Man. I completely like Furman last. Like you get to see teams like that, and it's awesome. That's why it's the greatest tournament in sports, in my opinion. It's just awesome.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Now, before we move on from basketball, because we want to talk some baseball and softball as well, I do want to pick your guys' brains about some comments that Brad Brownell made this week regarding the ACC scheduling and the format of ACC play. Essentially, his comments were the ACC is playing 20 conference games, and that's too many. He thinks that there should be less conference games, and he thinks that if there were, if you're allowed to play more out-of-conference games, maybe schedule some tougher opponents, then it's going to help quell the narrative somehow that the ACC has fallen in basketball or has become weaker in basketball. So those comments were kind of out of left field in a sense, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with what Coach Brownell is saying? Should there be fewer conference games, or do you like the model as it is?
I completely agree. And he brought up the Big 12 because the Big 12 plays less games and there's more teams in the tournament because they stat pad, according to Brownell at least. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you're winning games by 20, 30 points because you're playing teams that are, significantly lower than you. I really think that you're going to have to look into it with the addition of teams like SMU, Cal, and Stanford. I really think so. Which sucks because if you do take away some ACC games, you might take away the chance of two blue bloods. You might only have to play one game between UNC and Duke, which I don't agree with. I think like there should at least be like one or two rematches, but the Big 12 doesn't play anybody twice. And, that comes to show if, you're not able to avenge losses. I think if you're avenging losses in the ACC like Clemson's doing, like other teams are doing as well, I think it goes a long way in terms of, how your team has grown over the course of the season. But I really think that you should lower the conference games. I really think that you should play more out of conference because that's how you compare. That's how you rank. And that's how people kind of like look at their brackets going forward. They're like, okay, who played who out of conference? So that's my take on it. I really think that it should go away because, if you're playing less games, you're going to stat pad and it's not good.
Yeah. So here's my question. I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know if I agree or disagree because like if you schedule less ACC games and schedule more out of conference games, most people schedule easy out of conference games, right? So they can stat pad, but we know that Brownell wants to schedule harder games. So how's that going to help Clemson?
Take a look last year because Clemson they didn't really play anybody good and they tripped up. They lost to Loyola Chicago. I think that was one of their worst losses. Loyola Chicago and South Carolina, but you play a rivalry game every year. That's why they didn't make the tournament because, if you're playing games like that and you slip one up accidentally, I think that goes a longer way than, dropping maybe 2 or 3 closer games against teams that are fringe top 25. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that they lost. They beat teams like Alabama and TCU, Boise State. It just goes a longer way.
Oklahoma
right.
as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. I think it'll be it's interesting to see what it's going to be going forward. And Griffin, you brought up a good point with the additions of SMU and Stanford and that lot. You've got more teams, and so it's going to force a restructuring of the conference schedule and the conference format. Just how they go about it and what they end up doing is going to be interesting to see as that process plays out. So. It could be something we talk about by the time we get to next season, but we'll see how that all works. So now let's kind of transition a little bit and hop over to our spring sports, baseball and softball. Let's talk a little bit about softball first. And the Lady Tigers tonight, they played at Charlotte tonight, got another win, 8-5 over the 49ers. And that runs their record to Griffin. What was it? Is it 7-2 on the season? I believe it is.
Yes, 7-2. That's right.
Right, and the two losses against two SEC teams, Missouri and Mississippi State. So, based on what we're seeing so far from the Clemson softball team, very highly regarded coming into the year. Have they met those expectations so far, or what are you seeing from Lady Tigers?
I mean, for me, I stay basketball until basketball's over, and then I kind of transition. But I do like keep an ear out. But I mean, for me, one of the biggest things that has popped out to me was the addition of Julia Noller to this squad. She leads the team, I believe, in batting average, which I think is crazy given the fact that you have got girls like Valerie Cagle, Aaliyah Logaleo, Maddie Moore. I really think that her addition is going to be huge, but it's a tough schedule, obviously. Losing to teams like Missouri, Mississippi State, and the SEC, big conference in terms of softball. And you have yet to play a home game yet. Your first home game is guess what? Against another SEC team in Ole Miss on Friday. I think this team, they're getting it together. I maybe a little bit more just with how many people they brought back. But I mean, if I know John Rittman, I think that this team, like Clemson baseball last year, they're going to catch their stride. They're going to catch their wave. And I really think that this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the ACC as soon as they start conference play, because the hard part's done. If you're playing teams out of conference, that's kind of the hard part. That's kind of how Clemson basketball kind of worked. But I think that especially when the home games start coming along and wins start, they start win streaks and stuff like that, I think that this team's a force to be reckoned with, and I wouldn't really be concerned about a 7-2 start.
When they lost that first game and how they lost it and everything, I was like, it's a tournament, whatever. And then they lost the second game, and I was like, okay, like, what's going on? Because that usually doesn't happen. But you know what? FSU's lost, I think, 3 games already. And if I'm not mistaken, they made it to the College World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that says a little bit about, the ACC a little bit. Maybe the ACC, I don't think it's down or nothing like that, but maybe they're just playing tougher teams, and in the tournaments. I know Logaleo said that in post game after the orange and white scrimmage, she said that tournament down in Florida, they were going to play some of the toughest teams they had ever played this year. So, I think Griffin's right that they'll catch their stride, and if we can beat Florida State, then that'll say a lot, because we lost 2 out of 3 from them last year. And speaking on Noller, that girl can hit a softball, and she is, I would classify her as a freshman phenom. I mean, she's just good, and I think in that first tournament, first couple games, she was 5 out of 6 in her first. I think she was 5 out of 6 in her first 6 at bats or something like that, and 7 out of 10 for the tournament or something like that. It was crazy. It was a crazy stat, and so she's really good. And that team's stacked, I think.
Yeah, the good news is that those two games. Look, it's first 2 weeks of the year. It's a tournament. I mean, these games. Once you get down and you start getting into the heart of ACC play, ACC tournament, NCAA tournament, these two games don't mean a hill of beans. They're not going to impact you. Just games like this make you, in the world of softball and baseball, games like this make you better. Playing competition like that makes you better. Nobody's going undefeated in baseball and softball. Not even mighty Oklahoma is going undefeated. So use it as an opportunity to get better, play tough competition, and use it as a litmus test and a measuring stick for where you are. And then once you get a few months down the line, then I think you're better equipped and in a better position to go out there and win games like that.
There was 2 top 20 teams too. Missouri's 13th. I think Mississippi State is 20. And then again, the Mississippi State loss, Clemson had 2 canceled games. It's a weird transition. Their game against Utah was canceled, and their game, I think it was Utah. Yeah, their game against Utah was canceled, and their game against Auburn was canceled.
Yeah, Utah. It was Utah. I thought it might be Utah State, but you're right, it's Utah.
So it's a weird transition if you're going to, like, you're prepping for a game 2 games ahead, both games get canceled, and then it's right in front of you. It's a weird transition. I'm not saying that it should be an excuse. I'm just saying, like, if anybody's played baseball or any sport and a game gets rescheduled or a game gets canceled, it's a weird transition. So I wouldn't worry.
No, I'm not worried. I mean, you lose games early and then you recover. That's the game of baseball, man.
Exactly.
It's just like in baseball. Wake Forest lost last night. Who else? Vanderbilt lost last night. So I mean, baseball and softball, to me, they're the same type of game. It's the same game played with a different ball. So anybody can.
All right.
lose.
Well, yeah, any given night. Well, before we wrap up tonight, we're going to talk about baseball a little bit. But before we do that, we just want to remind everybody, don't whiff on your choice for pregame eats. Strike your hunger out by going and visiting our friends at Arden's Burger Grill at 1280 18 Mile Road Central. Get some of their famous double-dip wings. We love them. We can vouch. They've got mouth-watering burgers, sizzling grills as well. They take great care of us, and they'll do the same for you. So hit a home run with yourself and your friends and your taste buds by going and getting your pregame and game day meal from Arden's Burger Grill at 1280 18 Mile Road Central. Now,
I'll be there Saturday. I'll be there Saturday. Just
there you go.
It's my pregame meal.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous. You shouldn't have told me that. But guys, I tell you what though. Speaking of hitting a home run, this Clemson baseball team, they're off to a 4-0 start this year, and they are putting up quite the impressive offensive numbers, huh?
I don't remember how. I think they're one in many few teams to hit 8 or more home runs in their first 4 games. That's incredible.
3 grand slams. 3 grand slams.
3 grand slams too. One of them last night was his first career hit. Purified.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 there was 2 people. There was 2 of those grand slams. It was first career hit. One of them was first career hit for Clemson, and then one of them was his first career hit, period. And so go ahead, finish. I just totally interrupted you.
But honestly, yeah, I think offensively this team looks phenomenal. You could take a look at Xavier. They scored 33 runs in 3 games. They averaged 11 runs a game. That's incredible. And then come Presbyterian, they put 8, hit a grand slam, and kind of called game right after that. I think the only thing you really have to look at, but that happens over the course of a time. Obviously, Eric Bakich is still looking into his lineup, but he kind of hit the jackpot with that off the cut. You kind of have to look into your pitching rotation because you are letting in a large amount of runs. I think that just comes with time, though. I'm really excited to see guys like, Billy Barlow, Austin Gordon. I really think that once they get going, they're going to be completely okay. But I really like how the bullpen's going. I really like guys like Drew Titsworth, Rob Hughes, Lucas Malstedt. I think they've had great starts to the season so far. But pitching happens over time. You're going to get a groove. Obviously, if you're, this is a new team for you. especially if you're a freshman or a transfer. I think Clemson's going to be completely okay on pitching. They just need the bats to keep going. But with the squad you have, I really think that they're not going to stop anytime soon.
No, I agree with that. The bats are on fire. I think pitching is doing very well. You know, that Blue Hose team from last night in their first 4-game series, they scored 56 runs.
Oof.
And we held them to 2 last night. So to me, that says something about pitching. Yeah, when I heard that stat, it just blew my mind. Like 56 runs in 4 games. That's insane. And
So
so
that's 14 runs a game. No,
yeah,
in 3 games. No, it's more than that.
yeah, it's insane. And so with like you were
It's like
saying,
19 runs a
one
game.
guy, one guy that stood out to me, especially last night, was Purify. That kid is gonna be a really good player for Clemson. You know, he made a couple of good plays at second base. You know, he hit that. I mean, he hit that grand slam last night off a outside like slow pitch. I mean, it was like an off-speed pitch, and he just willed that ball. He pulled it. He pulled that ball over the fence, and he just flicked his wrist with his bat, and the ball went over the fence. But yeah, this team's gonna be good. They're playing well right now. They're putting up runs. They're hitting the ball. Cam Camarella's, you know, hitting the first pitch out of the park. You know what I'm saying? So they're playing really well, you know. So just keep it up.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to fire a shot over the SEC bow right here. Imagine as good as this Clemson lineup has been through the first 4 games of the year. Imagine how good this lineup would be in Tennessee not going and bought our best returning player right out from under us.
Well, here's the thing about that. If he wouldn't have left, I don't think we would have gotten some of the players that we have right now.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? You know, even though he left, like I don't think we get some of the guys from I don't think we get Overtop from Michigan. You know, I don't think Cooper Blauser plays, you know, and that cat, he's playing good. And I don't know if you know this, but you know Cooper Blauser is the son of Jeff Blauser from the Atlanta Braves.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, hey, 80s baby, 90s kid, man. I grew up watching those mid-90s Braves. Jeff Blauser, Mark Lemke, Chipper Jones, Fred McGriff.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that until this year. Like, I mean, I saw his name on the back of the jersey last year, and I was like, could it be?
Yeah,
and then I heard somebody say it this year.
Immediately, I had to go look it up. So,
yeah. I didn't look it up last year. I was just kind of like maybe, but then I heard it this year, and I was like, goodness gracious, that's awesome. That's 2 players we've had in the last 3 to 4 years that have come from the Braves. One of them was Paul Bird's son, and and then you got Blauser. So, I think that's pretty cool, man. The Clemson to Braves connection.
Hey, and look, hey, it's late February now. We're almost to March. Spring training's already started. So, Griffin, my question is to you: can they already hear that tomahawk chop up at Citi Field?
I mean, I'm down here, so I can't really hear it. If I hear it anywhere, it's from Truist Park. It's the closest baseball park I'm close to. But it was cool to see. It was cool to see Spencer Strider last weekend wear all his Clemson gear to spring training. That was a cool.
Yeah,
I'll give him some respect.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, look, cool. I've been baseball starved since October, so I had to throw down the gauntlet early. It's close enough now. I feel okay doing that.
By all means, I've been baseball deprived since September, so you've had an extra month. You've had the extra month. So
look,
fair
you know
play.
what? How is this? What's the saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So look, Braves and Mets, we're rivals, but we've got to just tag team off the top rope and do something about the damn Phillies, man.
Yeah.
Oh
Screw
my
them.
gosh. Yeah, I'll
Tired of the
join
Phillies.
forces. I'll join forces no matter. I don't do that with fans. It's no matter what. Doesn't matter. We'll banter. It's okay. But we do this. That's all that matters.
Hey,
Yeah.
absolutely. Look,
Exactly.
who says family can't disagree every once in a while on teams, right?
Ain't that
That's
the
right.
truth?
Well, guys, I
Yeah.
tell you what, it's been fun. Always is. So we've talked about a lot of good stuff tonight. Some basketball, baseball, softball. Before we say goodbye to everybody, any final thoughts?
Big weekend this weekend. I know Cliff's gonna be working at Gauntlet, baseball, softball.
Good.
Men's soccer started their spring schedule. They're playing at Riggs on a Saturday at 2. So anybody in the Clemson area, there's something to attend. I'm sure tickets are pretty cheap, or if soccer scrimmages, they're probably free. Come out and support. It's supposed to be a really nice weekend too. So if you're in the area, feel free. It's any game's pretty fun. All these teams are great that we've been talking about over the last 35 minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah, you were talking about me running the gauntlet on Saturday. Saturday, I've got softball at 2, baseball at 4, basketball at 7:45. And if I wasn't going to Arden's to eat at 12 o'clock, I would be going to the softball game at 12 o'clock. So I'm gonna be in Clemson from like 11:30 till probably like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Maybe later, probably 12.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
You do a
good
campus
luck,
card.
buddy. You're running the gauntlet.
Yeah, on Saturday. It's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy.
It'll be fun,
all
yeah.
accent.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
No doubt about it.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
speaking
it's
of
definitely
fun,
gonna be fun.
it's always fun. It's always fun getting together with you guys here on Around the Paul. We have such a great time doing it. Thanks to everybody who tunes in every week and watches or listens. We appreciate you. If you're new to Around the Paul, then make sure you follow us on. We're still going to call it Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. Give us a follow at CU Sports Media. And give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube if you like what we do. Helps us out. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. So until next time, and also thank you to Arden's, our sponsor. Clifton, enjoy some wings for us on Saturday. But guys, until next time, it's a lot of fun. We'll do it again soon. But until then, Godspeed, good luck, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.